I work the front desk at a hotel in Munich, near Marienplatz. Last month, an American couple checked in at 9 p.m. The man asked what time breakfast started. I said 7 a.m. He asked if they could get it at 6:30 instead because that's when they wake up in Chicago. I explained our kitchen opens at 7. He said they'd pay extra for early service. I said that's not how it works. The kitchen staff arrives at 6:45. He offered €50. I repeated that the kitchen physically opens at 7 a.m. His wife suggested I could just make toast and coffee since that's easy. I explained I'm the front desk clerk, not kitchen staff. He asked who he could tip to make this happen. I said no one, because breakfast is 7 to 10, that's the schedule. He asked if Germany had customer service. I told him we have schedules instead. They ordered pizza at 11 p.m. and complained it arrived cold because apparently German pizza places don't prioritize speed like Domino's. The pizza was from 3 blocks away. They expected it in 10 minutes. My coworker in Hamburg had an American ask if they needed a passport to take the train to Paris. When she said no, he seemed disappointed. He'd brought his passport specifically to get it stamped at the German-French border. She explained the EU doesn't work that way. He asked where the border checkpoint was anyway because he wanted a photo. She said there isn't one anymore. He said that seemed unsafe. And that was just Tuesday. I drive a taxi in Berlin. Picked up an American couple from Tegel Airport back when it was still open. They wanted to go to their hotel on Unter den Linden. The man asked why I was driving so slow. I was going exactly 50 kilometers per hour, the speed limit. He said in America, everyone goes at least 10 over. I explained German speed limits are enforced with cameras and hefty fines. He laughed and said that's what everyone says, but cops don't actually care. I pointed to a speed camera we were passing. He said that's probably fake, meant to scare tourists. I told him I've lived here 40 years and those cameras are very real. He said his uncle got out of a ticket in Florida by claiming the camera was broken, so these probably don't work either. His wife agreed, saying German technology is good but not that good. I drove exactly 50 the whole way. He left a 1-star review saying I drove suspiciously slowly, probably to run up the meter. The meter is time-based regardless of speed. He paid €30 for a 20-minute drive and called it highway robbery. I work at a bakery in Frankfurt. An American woman came in and asked for a plain bagel with cream cheese. We don't sell bagels. I offered her a Brötchen, which is a German bread roll. She asked if it was like a bagel. I said it's a bread roll, different thing. She said she'd take it anyway but wanted it toasted. I explained we don't have a toaster, we sell fresh bread. She looked at our 10 other customers eating untoasted bread and asked, very seriously, how they eat it cold. I said it's fresh from the oven this morning, it's not cold. She touched a Brötchen and said it felt room temperature. I explained that's how bread works after it cools. She asked if we could throw it in the microwave for 30 seconds. We don't have a microwave. It's a German bakery. She asked what we do if someone wants warm bread. I said they come earlier when it's fresh from the oven, or they toast it at home. She said this would never fly in America. She bought the Brötchen, no cream cheese because we only had butter. Left confused why Germans eat cold sandwiches for breakfast. I'm a tour guide in Cologne. Was leading a group through the cathedral when an American man interrupted me to ask why everything was in German. I said we're in Germany. He said sure, but this is a tourist spot, shouldn't there be English signs? I pointed to the English audio guide he was holding. He said that's different. He meant the actual signs on the walls. I explained those are historical markers in German because it's a German church in Germany. He said the Statue of Liberty has signs in multiple languages. I said that's nice, but we're not in America. He asked to speak to whoever's in charge of the cathedral. I said that would be the Archbishop of Cologne. He asked if the Archbishop speaks English. I said probably, but he's not going to change 800-year-old inscriptions. The man said this was poor planning for international visitors. His wife took a photo with flash despite 5 signs saying not to. When I asked her to stop, she said the signs were in German, so how was she supposed to know? I work at a pharmacy in Dusseldorf. An American man came in asking for Advil. I offered him ibuprofen, which is the exact same medication. He said he specifically needs Advil because that's what his doctor recommended. I explained Advil is just a brand name for ibuprofen. He insisted there must be a difference, otherwise why would they have different names? I showed him the ingredient list. Both contain ibuprofen 200 milligrams. He squinted at the box and said the German packaging looked generic. I told him this is from Reichepharm, a major German pharmaceutical company. He asked if it was FDA approved. I said we're in Germany, we have our own regulatory system. He asked if it was as strict as the FDA. I said yes, the European Medicines Agency has very high standards. He pulled out his phone and Googled, "Is German ibuprofen safe?" Right there in front of me. He read some Reddit comment that said European medicine is fine but not American quality. He asked if I had anything manufactured in the United States. I did not. He left without buying anything and said he'd tough out his headache until he got back to Dallas. I work at a gas station outside Stuttgart. An American pulled up in a rental car, got out, and stared at the pump for a full minute. He came inside and asked why the prices were so high. I said fuel is more expensive in Europe. He said no, the number on the pump said €1.89. I said yes, per liter. He asked what a liter was. I explained it's a metric unit, about a quarter of a gallon. He did math on his phone and said that means gas is almost $8 a gallon. I said yes, that's normal here. He asked if there's a cheaper station nearby. I said they're all roughly the same price. He asked if I could give him a discount since he's American and not used to these prices. I said no, I don't set fuel prices. He asked if he could pay in dollars because the exchange rate might be better. I explained that's not how gas stations work. He pumped €50 of fuel, which filled his tank halfway, and muttered that this would never happen in Texas. His tank was 60 liters. He thought he'd paid for 60 gallons. When he realized his mistake, he came back in and asked if he could return the extra fuel. I'm a Personaltrainer in Hamburg. An American client came in for his first session. I asked his weight to plan exercises. He said 190. I asked 190 what? He looked confused and said pounds. I needed it in kilograms for our equipment settings. He said he didn't know kilograms. I divided by 2.2 and got roughly 86 kilograms. He asked why everything in Germany was in kilograms. I said because we use the metric system. He said that seemed unnecessarily complicated. I explained that actually the metric system is simpler because everything divides by 10. He said the imperial system made more sense because he grew up with it. I said that's just familiarity, not logic. He asked if I could convert all the weights on the dumbbells to pounds. We have 40 dumbbells. I said no. He spent the whole session asking me to convert weights. When I had him run on the treadmill, he asked why it showed kilometers per hour. I explained, again, metric system. He set it to what he thought was 6 miles per hour but was actually 6 kilometers per hour. He complained the treadmill was broken because it was too slow. It was 3.7 miles per hour. He canceled his membership. I work at a hardware store in Nuremberg. An American came in needing lumber for a DIY project. He asked for a 2x4, 8 feet long. I showed him our closest equivalent, 50 millimeters by 100 millimeters boards in various lengths. He stared at them and asked where the 2x4s were. I explained we use metric measurements. He asked me to convert it. I said 50 by 100 millimeters is roughly 2 by 4 inches, and we have them in 2.4 meter lengths, which is about 7.9 feet. Close enough. He said that's not exact. I said it's the standard size in Germany. He pulled up a conversion calculator and announced that 2.4 meters is actually 7.874 feet, not 8. I said correct, but that's our standard length. He asked if I could cut it to exactly 8 feet. I said I could, but he'd be cutting off 126 millimeters for no reason. He insisted. I cut it. He paid for the full 2.4 meter board. He asked why he was charged for what he didn't take. I explained he's buying the board, I'm just cutting it to his specification. He said this was a scam. His friend later told him 2x4s in America aren't actually 2 inches by 4 inches anyway. They're 1.5 by 3.5 inches. He didn't know that. I'm a driving instructor in Munich. I had an American student who just moved here for work. First lesson, I told him to drive to the Autobahn entrance. He immediately went 80 kilometers per hour in a 50 zone. I told him to slow down. He said he was barely going 50 miles per hour. What's the problem? I explained that's 80 kilometers per hour, and the limit is 50 kilometers. He said this was confusing and asked why Germany didn't just use miles. I said because literally almost every country uses kilometers. He said that seemed like peer pressure. We got on the Autobahn. He asked what the speed limit was. I said there isn't always one on certain stretches. He got excited and immediately floored it. I told him to slow down because his driving isn't ready for high speeds yet. He said if there's no limit, he can go as fast as he wants. I explained unlimited doesn't mean safe or smart, especially for new drivers. He topped out at 160 kilometers per hour and asked why the car wouldn't go faster. It was a driving school car with a limiter. He said this defeated the purpose of the Autobahn. I ended the lesson early. He complained to my boss that I was too strict for unlimited roads. I work at the immigration office in Berlin. An American came in to extend his tourist visa. He'd been in Germany for 88 days on a 90-day Schengen visa. I asked what his plan was. He said he wanted to stay another 3 months to experience real German culture. I explained the Schengen visa allows 90 days in any 180-day period. He can't just extend it. He said he'd pay the fee for an extension. I told him there is no fee because there is no extension for tourists. He asked what people usually do. I said they leave the Schengen zone before day 90 and reapply later. He said that seemed like a loophole. I said it's not a loophole, it's the actual rule. He asked if he could pay extra to stay. I said no, this is immigration law, not a hotel upgrade. He asked if he could speak to a supervisor. I got my supervisor. My supervisor repeated everything I said word for word. The American asked if there was someone above the supervisor. My supervisor said yes, but they'll say the same thing because this is federal law. He asked what happens if he just stays. I told him he'd overstay his visa, face fines, possible deportation, and a ban from the Schengen zone. He said that seemed harsh for 2 days over the limit. I said it's harsh for any time over the limit, the law doesn't negotiate. He asked if we could make an exception for an American citizen. My supervisor asked why that would matter. He said because America and Germany are allies. My supervisor said that's nice, but immigration law still applies. He left angry and said he'd contact the American embassy. I checked our system 2 weeks later. He overstayed by 4 days and got fined €600 at the airport when he tried to leave. He's banned from the Schengen zone for 1 year. His angry email to our office said this was unfair because it's not like I committed a real crime. Overstaying a visa is, in fact, a real crime. Working in Germany, you learn that rules exist whether Americans acknowledge them or not. Speed limits don't care about your habits back home. The metric system predates your confusion. And breakfast starts at 7 a.m. because that's when the kitchen opens, not when you feel like eating. And somewhere right now, another American is confidently explaining to a Berlin police officer why jaywalking shouldn't be illegal if there are no cars coming.